welcome. Thanks for joining us. This is Tips for the Transition, the Career Roadmap podcast, and I'm Maria Tomás-Keegan. My vision for this show is to create resources that help women navigate career and life challenges more easily, maybe a little more gracefully, and to know that they are not alone. So each weekly conversation we have inspires women to address tough questions and become more confident, resilient, and brave in their careers and indeed in their lives. So if something resonates with you as you listen today and you want more information, check out the show notes below for ways to connect with my guest and me. So I often start with a question for you. Have you ever struggled with building authority authentically? It's a topic I find that many women struggle with in their careers and even sometimes at home. Now, of course, we all want to be seen, respected, heard, and believed that we know what we're talking about, right? But that's often not the case. So I've invited Eileen Bild to talk with us about how to build authority authentically. Eileen wears many hats as a coach, CEO of her own production company, talk show host, author, editor, and syndicated columnist. She teaches mindful leadership, validation, and effective communication to purpose-driven professionals, executives, and celebrities to help them re-engineer their brains while upgrading their thinking to a new level to master the inner game for success. In addition, Eileen focuses on living fearlessly and stresses the 3 C's: confidence, courage, and clarity. And we're going to talk more about those. So let me bring Eileen on to talk about leading with authenticity. Hello, Eileen.
Hi, Maria. Nice to see you.
So glad you joined us today. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, good. All right. So let's start with a little background about you, Eileen. Tell us a bit about your career and why building authority with authenticity is an important topic for you.
Great question. Um, when I, Before I started my business, Ordinary to Extraordinary Life, um, I was struggling with my own identity, who I am, why I'm here. And I found that I didn't have strong boundaries and I didn't really have that authority for people to pay attention to what I was bringing to their experience. And it took a deep dive in my own sense of who I am. Why am I here? What's my why? And then take that a step further into how can I stand in my power throughout the development of not only myself but the business, so that I'm taken seriously and I'm seen as an authority in who I am and what I do.
All right. So we all struggle with that, I think, at some period in our careers. That you brought it up, the that sense of knowing who we are at any given time and feeling comfortable with that, right?
Correct. And I think that's feeling comfortable, being okay, being who we are, because we're raised to uh, be this, be that, say that, and and it may not be the core of our authentic self, who could be more of the creative side, but we end up in a more technology type position.
Mhm.
And so there's a conflict between that authentic self and that self that wants to be seen, heard, respected, and valued. Thinking if I'm in this other world, it's going to be more respected than if I'm in a creative world. And as a video production uh, executive I work in a man's world, and um, I had to bring myself into that environment as a female who knows what she's doing, who can connect with those in the music industry, because we do live music video productions and we work with creative artists. So I was able to pull in my creative, authentic self and combine it with the more technology and videography aspect of that world.
That's great. It's great that you were able to do that. I think that's where a lot of people struggle, is that finding that the harmony in the different aspects of our talents and our gifts, right? And bring them together in a way that feels good and right for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, in my introduction, I mentioned that you focus on 3 C's for authenticity. So, would you break those down for us? Tell us what those are again and break each one of them down for us.
I'd love to. That's one of my favorite because the 3 C's are courage, confidence, and clarity. And you can't have one without the other and stand in your power and feeling empowered and in your strength. And I call it strength with grace because we don't want to be like a man. We can understand how a man thinks and be able to communicate with them. And we don't want to compete with other females. We want to work together with them and support each other. So, with confidence, we can clear out all the cobwebs and the busy mind that we tend to develop when the confidence isn't there and we have trouble making decisions. So if you have strong confidence, your decision making is better, your communication is better. And with confidence comes courage. So you got to have the confidence before you have the courage, because without the confidence, you won't have the courage to stand up, to have a voice, to speak, to say what you want to say, to be able to uh, move forward in an experience, whether it's personal or business, uh, in a way that's harmony, like you mentioned earlier. But even beyond harmony, it's to walk your walk, talk your talk without fear, without making excuses, without, you're in that string, but you're being graceful. We're females. Females have nurturing qualities, and I don't like to diminish those qualities that are natural for us when we're in leadership positions or when we're leading others. And then, so you got confidence and then courage. And with those two, the clarity comes in where you're very sure when you make a decision, you're very sure about the next step. There's you carry yourself in a different way that other people then respect you. And what I have found is uh, when we operate from fear, when we make decisions based on fear, the respect isn't there. And and having a voice, speaking up, saying what you really want to say with discernment. We don't just we have to decide with the person that we're speaking to, or if it's a group, what kind of language do we speak with them, and how will they take what we're saying? So it's learning communication skills, the power of the pause. There's all kinds of tools and techniques that combine really make it very powerful between confidence, courage, and clarity. So if you have all three of those and they're really strong, I mean, you win at everything. Everything just builds on the other, and you just become a better leader, a better person, a better version of yourself.
I love how you brought all that together. I think you're so right about the order in which they need to work. The confidence needs to come first, and building confidence is not always an easy thing, especially when there are people in our world who are out to um, pick away at it, right? Saying
Right.
things that we take to heart. and start to believe and start to doubt ourselves.
Mm.
So it's really important, I think, the confidence piece is that we get really, really centered on who we are and how we want to show up. That's the authentic part, right? And then feeling brave enough, here's where the courage comes in, to show up that way so that we can speak and be heard.
You hit it on the nail, and not only that, the confidence comes in when we've been beaten down in the past.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about being in the present moment right now, to take the next step forward into the rest of today and future, um, the past, you're not good enough, you didn't do that right, all the things that cause us to question our sense of self and autonomy and even self-esteem. But when you're in a state of, who you are authentically, that core, this is who I am, this is how I show up, this is how I interact and communicate, and I listen and I speak. It doesn't matter what somebody else says. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks or how they present you to other people, because you know who you are, and other people will be more in alignment with your strength with grace than with somebody else trying to put you down. And bullying is a huge chronic issue right now, and
Yeah.
it's not just with young people. A lot of adults are having issues with bullies in the workplace and with coworkers, with bosses, and it's really difficult if you don't have the skills or the confidence or the courage and be brave to stand up to that.
You're so right. Bullying is, it used to be kids in the schoolyard, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is not that anymore. It's pervasive. It's difficult to deal with. But I think you're so right about when we feel good about who we are, and I love you said the way you said that, with grace, right? We
Yeah.
show up with grace, giving other people grace, giving ourselves grace, and being graceful as we stand in our power, who we are, and be good with that, so that no matter what other people are saying about us, we don't take it to heart and let it derail us or chip away at who we know we are, and let those words hurt.
Exactly. It throws us off balance,
Yeah.
and it causes a like a domino effect of the doubt, and we end up questioning, am I right, am I wrong, why did they look at me like that, why don't they like me, why are they picking on me, why all these things are happening.
And one of the most derailing questions that we could ask yourself is, who do I think I am?
Hmm.
Right?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
That has a lot of power, negative power, a lot of negative energy to it. And a lot of people are thinking that. A lot of women are thinking that.
Well,
So,
because we have to, well, I'm sorry, I just want to say that
no,
I think in the world today, a lot of women feel that they have to fight to be heard and to be seen
yeah,
and valued and respected, and we have to prove ourselves. And I say, no, it's not a fight. It's learning how to be authentically yourself, and using the different skills of the listening skills, the communication skills, to find that harmony, that connection with the other person, so that they see you in a different light,
yeah,
because they're going through their own filters. And
right.
if our confidence, courage, and clarity are not in alignment, and one's missing or two are missing, then that leaves an open door for that person bring to you something that's going to break you down even more.
Right. So you mentioned this before, and I think this is maybe a good time to bring up this idea of setting boundaries and how essential that is to do. What do you think about how we can strengthen our ability to set boundaries and strengthen the boundaries themselves?
I have the great answer for that.
Oh, good.
For me, boundary setting is teaching others how to treat you.
Mm,
So when someone brings something negative or challenging, we are emotional creatures. Females are, I mean, we live in emotion. So it's not to disregard how we feel, but it's to let the other person know that what they're saying, how they're behaving, does not work. It doesn't uh, make us feel good. And it's okay to tell someone, you know, when you say that, it doesn't feel good. I want to feel good. I want this conversation to be healthy. I want it to go in a good direction for the best outcome. So, therefore, I prefer you to say this to me. So, from now on, when we communicate on this subject, this matter, say this, and we'll be good. And that's all you have to do. And if you repeat that over and over in a conversation with someone over time, eventually they will think before they bring something to you that they know you're going to stop them and have that boundary where they can't bring they learn they can't bring it to you. And it's a awesome way to cut a conversation short, to diffuse a situation where you may just be going back and forth, and everybody ends up angry, frustrated, and storms off.
and that takes courage.
Yes, ma'am, it
It
does.
does, in spades. It takes courage. And I think I love this concept that you're sharing, that we need to be um, proactive in stopping the conversations that are in some ways attacking us or belittling us, and stopping them in their tracks and kind of calling people out on it so that we are teaching them what is um, what works for us,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
And what is acceptable to us.
And that's key. What's acceptable? It's to know what you do and do not want to allow into your
Right,
life, and to
right.
really have a strong sense of that. And if you have a strong sense of that, then your confidence, courage, clarity will be strong. I mean, just think how empowering all this that we're talking about is, and how um, you know going into any experience, if you have this as your foundation, as your backbone, nothing will rattle you. Nothing can throw you off balance or off guard. And trust me, life, people, situations will test you and try to knock you off. It just seems to be what happens in life. And it's an opportunity
Yeah.
to strengthen that confidence, courage, and clarity so that that boundary setting and that authentic self can come to the surface.
And do it in a way, we talked about grace. It's a word I use a lot, but to do it with grace. So
Mhm.
it's not in, we don't want to sound like we are uh, playing the same game, right? That
Right.
they are, anyone who might be attacking us or doing something that's unacceptable to us, calling them on it, but doing it in a way, communicating to them in a way that allows them grace, and we do it with grace.
And I want to add to what you just said because grace, people might think it's a weakness. And I say it's a strength.
Oh boy, I agree
So
with you.
it's strengthening strength. Because if you think about what do people need? They need love. They need to feel like they matter. Even the men in our lives or the bullies or the women that are jealous and trying to take you down, it doesn't matter if it's male, female, young, old, you know, we're all human. We all have life journey that brings us to a place where we are now that filters and or is part of how we respond versus react. So if you find yourself reacting to situations, take a step back and determine, well, what's the emotion, what's being triggered, and how can I be good? How can I bring grace, strength with the confidence, courage, and clarity into the equation so that I don't get triggered, and instead I can guide the conversation, guide the experience, the communication, so that everybody leaves feeling good. I mean, who wants to live their life, frustrated every day, angry? I hate my boss. I hate my coworker. I don't like what she said, he does. I mean, that's exhausting. That you can't sleep at night. I mean, it just creates all kinds of issues. But oh, yes.
Yeah, no, finish.
Well, I was going to say, but when you really study yourself, am I authentically myself? And if you can't say emphatically 100% yes, which do we really ever get 100% ourselves? I think we're always in a constant state of growth, right? But at least asking if I'm 100% and you can
In
gauge,
the
well, how
moment.
close am I in the moment, right? How close am I to that 100%? If you're lower than 85%, then you go on to practice confidence, courage, clarity, practice your sense of autonomy, your sense of self-esteem. What are your triggers? What can I do to build myself up in a way that I'm proud and I'm happy and I'm courageous and I'm bold and I can approach everyday life in a way that people respect me and they value me and they want to be around me and they enjoy what I bring to the equation, to the table, to the meeting, to the event,
Right,
to the process, and they want more. You want people
right,
leaving wanting more.
right. I love what you just put together there. Thank you for that. That's really a
You're
great
welcome.
point. I want to just add that when we are successful at showing up as our authentic selves repeatedly, people begin
Yeah.
to expect that of us. So we are
Yes.
doing a couple of things. We're teaching them how to treat us, which we talked about before, but we're also being a role model for graceful behavior, authentic behavior. And that is when people want more, that they're usually looking at us that way as a role model.
I agree. And through the leading by example,
Right.
uh, you know, we're talking about leading with authenticity. How often do we feel we're not, uh, and not being taken seriously, we question ourselves, am I in the imposter syndrome? Does that play into it? And I look at the imposter syndrome as it's just a symptom or a label we put on where we put on ourselves where we don't have that confidence, courage, and
Right.
clarity. That's all it is. Those are just in a weakened state. Because if you feel that empowerment of I know who I am, I know what I'm saying, I know my ideas count for something, I know that I have the ability to lead. Um, then there's no need to feel like you're an imposter. It's to show up, prove it, to show it. I mean, I know I said earlier we don't need to prove ourselves, but it's not proving it as a need. It's proving it to say, look, I'm authentically me, and this is who I am.
Right.
So it builds that respect from others that allows the experiences to get better versus stay in this cycle that just never ends, and you end up either leaving a job looking for a new one, or you want to get rid of the other person.
Right, right. Okay, so are there any critical factors for building authority and feeling heard and respected by others?
Yes, the first critical factor, and you kind of touched on it, is repetition. Repeat, just continue to share and show people who you are in that strength, whatever that looks like, whatever that means to you. So if you know your why of why you're doing what you are as a leader, and if there's any areas that you know that are possibly weak, to be okay with that. It's okay to not be perfect. Being a perfectionism uh, is difficult because it's never going to be good enough. And I say you're good enough just as you are now, and then build upon that to become a better version of the self. And the better version of the self allows that inner being, that authentic self that we're born as, to brighten. And as that brightens, people are going to see you in a different light, in a different way, in a new way. And any preconceived perceptions, judgments will be eliminated or replaced with, oh, that's who she is. Okay, I can get along with that. So it's sometimes back and forth with testing your strength of who you know you are, who you think you are, and how people respond. So that's I think the first really important critical point.
So that's just showing up repeatedly as who you are and making no excuses for that.
Yes,
Good
yes.
one.
And if,
All right.
if right, and if you start to find yourself making excuses, to uh, understand why you're making those
Yeah.
excuses, and then resolve the reason behind it, and then strengthen the uh, the part of you that is making those
Yeah.
excuses.
All right. What's the second one?
So the second one is to walk your walk and talk your talk. So we have to be careful with what we think and what we say. So we can't think one thing and say another. And what happens is, if we've ever had an experience where someone says, you have a conversation and someone says, well, but you said this, and your response is, no, I said that. And what's happening is your thinking and what you say are not the same. And that often happens because there's fear and standing in your power and being your authentic self and speaking your truth, if that makes
Oh,
sense.
yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. Showing up, walk your talk. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes,
And the third one?
yes. Don't take everything personally.
Good one.
Yeah, I mean, we have to know that everybody comes into our experience with their own issues, their own background, and we can't change that. We can't heal that. All we can do is be ourselves and lead as an example, to be okay with our uniqueness, with our specialty of what makes us us, what makes me me. Because I'm not you and you're not me, but together, if we work together as a global unit, then we appreciate and we value that uniqueness that comes out in the experiences, and that confidence, courage, and clarity.
And another C to add to that, collaborate, which
Okay.
is one of my favorite C's,
Yes,
because that's what it
absolutely.
allows us to do, right? Instead of judging
Yeah.
each other, it allows us to come together and collaborate to do something better together than we could do on our own.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And I feel that, if there's seems like there's division or conflict, diffusing that conflict is key to be able to be heard, valued, seen, understood, and respected. Because when you're in conflict, you're in your head and you can't think straight, and it just compounds upon itself. And then what are you left with? You're left with
Right.
a situation that you're going to have to come back to because it's not resolved. So when you're authentically yourself, that happens less.
Yeah.
If well, I shouldn't say not at all, because people are going to bring things to you, but it happens less.
Right. Because they begin to know what to expect.
Yes, and the collaboration brings everybody forward together,
Yeah.
not one person going forward trying to and another person trying to hold them back.
Right.
Instead, you're like
Or
growing,
trying to drag people
expanding.
along.
Yes, yeah, or hold them down.
Yeah.
There's yeah.
All
So
right. So all of this, and we've talked about this already, but communication uh, between and among people is really key to any
yeah.
relationship, right? But what does it take to truly effectively communicate with people?
Okay. So there's multi parts to this. Um, understand in order to be understood. Males and females are different. Females and females can be competitive. Males and males can be competitive. So it's to go into every experience. Well, I like to go into every experience as an observer first to see what I'm coming into and to listen more than speak. Through the listening, I can identify where the other person is and be able to navigate through the conversation, through the communication, so that they feel heard, valued, understood, in order for me to feel heard, valued, and understood with how they're responding. And it takes practice. There's science that backs this up because we have neural pathways, and because of how we're traditionally raised, we are not taught how to truly proactively listen. And as females, we like to talk. So it takes practice to bite the tongue, to sit back, and to listen for the other person and not so much to them to have a solution or to have a response that doesn't really carry the conversation in a way where there's a there's a there's a most effective outcome. So it cuts back the proactive listening, the observing, and listening for actually cuts back on the potential for conflict.
Yeah, listening to understand is such an important skill to develop. And I
Yes.
love what you said. You go in listening first instead of speaking is always uh, I think it's a great way to start.
Oh, it is. It is.
Yeah.
And a question that can come up is, well, what about me? If you're talking with someone and that you don't feel validated, you don't feel heard, and you're thinking, well, what about me? What about what I say? Isn't it important? So if you can help somebody else feel important, hopefully they will mirror that back to
Respond in
you
kind. Hmm.
and respond in
Mm,
kind. So, and what happens is the neural pathways start to shift in how we view what a perception is and how we view another person. So, I have uh, been very successful at taking a person who comes across as very adversarial and conflicting and negative and just draining. And I've been able to turn the relationship and the communication with them around to where it's healthy and enjoyable, and we have that collaborative conversation. So it can happen with the worst of the worst,
yeah.
but it's and the underlying thread of it is either they or us both are not feeling heard, valued, understood, and respected.
Right. Right. And then there's this. And what
Yes.
we want is this. We
Yes.
want yes. So I think when we listen first to understand where they're coming from, maybe how they're communicating, we have the opportunity then to modify how we communicate with them so that we are heard. And
Not only
that takes understanding people and what you're listening for, and that's a skill in and of itself.
it is, and on top of that, uh, you want to ask questions.
Yeah,
Because if you're the person asking questions versus uh, uh, trying to change someone, asking questions, you're actually in charge of the conversation.
right.
And through the answers, you can understand where they're coming from, what
Exactly.
their needs are, and then you balance that with what your needs are. But again, it's got to come from that foundation of confidence, courage, clarity, strength with grace.
Okay. So listen to understand and then ask great questions to go deeper, to understand
Yes,
better. Yeah. Great communication skills to develop.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, so if you know, taking everything we've talked about today and proactively apply a little bit at a time and deep dive into, do I feel empowered with this person? Do I feel empowered in this environment? And if you get a no, then there's something to build upon, to strengthen, to make it better in your life so that you can walk into any door, you can walk into any space, hold your head high, shoulders back and down, and have a conversation with anyone and always leave feeling good.
Yeah. Important skills to learn. Absolutely. All right,
Yes,
Eileen, before we before we get into our key takeaways and tips from you, I know that you're working on a research project that I think some of the women who are watching and listening would love to hear about and maybe even participate in. Would you tell us a little bit about that?
absolutely. So I decided I wanted to do some research on women's asset and business leadership. And I wanted to have a questionnaire for men and women, gather the information, and then determine what is it that women really need for training, for building that confidence, courage, and clarity, so that we have stronger women leaders out there that are truly making a difference, truly engaging, collaborating, and feeling empowered in their position in their job. So I have a really um, powerful questionnaire with questions that people have been answering for me so far. And it's very eye opening. And the men who have answered the questionnaire, a lot of them had said the same thing. That's not in a question, but in like it's a question, but it's not a check off. And they have to write their own answer. And the same thing shows up. So I can use the information coming through to say, this is what's happening in the minds of the people in the corporate world and how they are viewing us as women and how we as women, what our needs are and how we are viewing ourselves. And so I'm excited about gathering the information and being able to put together the results and some possible training and classes and workshops out of it.
That's amazing. I'm so happy you're doing that. Help me understand. Is there some criteria upon which you are basing who you send this research out to?
Well, preferably it's people in the corporate world because this is geared towards the women leaders in business.
Perfect.
Men, males, females. I like both to contribute.
Yeah.
And other than that, it can be anybody, anywhere, all over the world,
So,
and any
and
background.
at every
So
level in the
every
corporate America.
yes, I have an extensive list of what your title is, and you can do it anonymously, or you can, include your name. It's pretty self-explanatory as far as um, guiding you in what you're comfortable in filling out.
That's great. Thank you for doing that. I would love to see the results of this when you're done too.
Okay, well, I will make a note to share that
Yeah,
with
that
you.
would be
Yes.
great. That's amazing. All right. So we end every one of our sessions with tips and key takeaways from my guest. So I would love to know what your first one is.
My first one is you matter. You matter, and don't let anybody tell you any different. And to honor that authentic self and build it and strengthen it and flex that muscle of who you are authentically, uniquely. Uh, it's so important to feel good about who we are, who we know we are. And um, think about that courage, confidence, and clarity, and where you can strengthen that so that you can leave you can go to bed at night feeling really good and looking forward to tomorrow and having another awesome day.
You know, I just thought of something. It would be a great exercise for us to, at the end of our day, just ask ourselves a question. Where where did I show my confidence today? And where did I show my courage today? And what kind of clarity did I get?
That would be perfect.
That would be a
Yes.
great way to end. Yeah, that's a really powerful way to just every day take stock of it. And,
Hmm.
when we maybe faltered a bit, then the next question is, how can I be better tomorrow?
Hmm. And then in the morning, you set your intention of how can I be better? What can I do
That's
different? How
right.
can do I need to listen more? Do I need to bite my tongue? Do I need to,
Yeah,
the different action? Because nothing changes, nothing improves without action. We can
right.
talk about it, we can think about it, we can write it down,
Yeah,
but we have to take the steps for that new pattern, that new neural pathway, that new way of being, standing, speaking. We have to take that
yeah,
next step.
yeah. I like to say, what we don't change, we choose. So
Yes.
we need to recognize what it is we want to change and then take the steps, decide what the steps are we want to take to change them, and then take those steps. Okay,
I just want to,
go
oh,
ahead.
if I just want to say one thing on that. Look at it not a have to, but a choose to. I choose
Yeah.
to do this.
Or I get
And
to.
then
I get to
I
do
get
that.
to. And I allow myself, give
Yeah,
yourself permission,
that's right.
right? And push through any fear, any stress, anxiety that might show up. Because when you come out the other side, you will be powerful.
Absolutely. All right, what's your second one?
My second one, gosh, I just gave a lot. Let's see, what's my second one? My second one would be, embrace what people bring to you. Earlier, I said don't take things personally. So when you acknowledge that someone's bringing me something that feels good, celebrate that. If someone brings me something that doesn't feel good, have compassion for yourself and the other person, and try to get into that space of listening, understanding, and where is it in myself that I can do better, because we can't change the other person.
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. The
Yeah.
effect we have, the ripple effect we have when we are changing, getting better at who we are and how we're showing up, it has a ripple effect, absolutely, on
Yeah.
others. And as we've said before, we teach others how to treat us, and we become role models for how to show up authentically. And everyone's different. So, how I show up authentically is different than how you show up authentically and how someone else shows up authentically. But because we're all uniquely us, that makes for such a beautiful world, I think, that if we all, without judgment, right, we all just allow everyone to be who they are. And we don't have to like everybody, we don't have to like it, but then we get to choose who we want to surround ourselves with.
It's like the kaleidoscope, right? When
Yeah.
you look at a kaleidoscope, it's
Yeah.
beautiful colors,
It's,
especially when you put it in the light. So when all of our lights are shining,
yeah.
it's a
It's
beautiful,
a beautiful metaphor too. Yeah.
it
Love
is.
that.
Yes.
All right. Well, Eileen, I really appreciate your being here today. Thank you so much for sharing, having this conversation. I think it's an important one about showing up authentically and how to lead with authenticity. So I really appreciate your being here today. And I know,
Thank you for
oh,
inviting
it's my
me.
pleasure.
Yes, I've enjoyed it.
Truly my pleasure. I know that people are going to want to reach out to you, especially about that research project. So, would you tell us the one best way for people to do that?
Yeah, so they can go to the website, www.oteluniverse.com, OTELUNIVERSE.com.
Perfect. Thank you again for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm glad. I did too, and I know a lot of people are going to get so much out of this conversation. Thanks again.
Well, you're welcome.
And for everyone watching and listening, I really appreciate that you are a part of this community. And if you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, leave a comment, click a star, let us know how you feel about it. And as I said at the top of the show, I love creating and sharing resources for women. Plus, as a career and life coach, I work with women to help them navigate challenging times more quickly and gracefully. So, if something in this episode resonates with you and you'd like a fresh perspective, reach out and let's talk it through. The links to connect with Eileen, as we said, are in the show notes below. And I invite you to continue the conversation with me in my private Facebook group called the Career Transition Roadmap. So the links for that are below as well. So let's meet again here next week, same time, same place, because you know what? I believe it's our time to thrive. So let's thrive together. Till next time, I'm Maria Tomás-Keegan, helping you turn transition into triumph.